Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation.
Guten Erev Shabbos, Parshas Noach, Tavshin Pei Dalet. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. I hope it's not insensitive to hope for that, even amidst all the madness and crisis going on in the world. Hope everyone's doing well, healthy, safe, and together we should all be protected, healed, and ultimately rescued from this bitter gullus, Bikar of Mamish. Thank you to this week's sponsors, Yoni and Ruchi Spivak of Lakewood, New Jersey, in the schus of the protection and salvation of Klal Yisroel. As well, thank you to our corporate sponsors, the Haas & Zaltz Law Firm, Bluestone Brokerage, and Meridian Senior Healthcare. For future dedications to sponsor this year, please reach out to 845-367-2959. So over the past couple weeks, unfortunately, we've heard the message many times over from many different people, Rabbanim, Rosh Yeshivas, Rabbeim, friends, soldiers on the front lines. They're telling us, please daven for us, learn for us, do something extra, do something more, say a kapitel tehillim, do another chesed, give another smile, give a little more tzedakah. And the question is, while it's always good to increase and to capitalize on our avodas Hashem and our mitzvahs, and to do more and better for others, for ourselves, where indeed is the makar? Is there a source for such a thing? How could it be that my kapitel tehillim is going to have such a far-reaching effect on a soldier on the front lines? How could it be that when I overcome my Yetzer Hara, for whatever that may be, that can have an effect, a ripple effect on a hostage, that perhaps he can be redeemed, he can be saved? How is it possible? Where do we know? What does the Torah have to say about this? So it's never ironic, because no matter what parsha, what kufa of the year, we can always turn to the Torah to find the yesodis of emes, of Amunah B'tachon, and this week is no exception. We don't have to look too far. In this week's Parsha, we literally learn this exact message, this exact Yesod, that Klal Yisroel is one, that we're interconnected, that we're not living in a vacuum, we're not living in a microcosm. The Beis Halevi tells us the most profound, most beautiful insight, which I'd like to share with you, and hopefully that can continue fueling us with the positivity and realization that what we do over here, whether we're in America, in England, in Germany, Switzerland, South Africa, all of our deeds, our maisim, our enhancing and increasing in our avodas Hashem does have a ripple effect, does have a direct effect on those fighting on the front lines. So where does that come from? So the pasuk in this week's parsha says, "Vayar lekim es haaretz v'hine nishchaso." Hashem saw how corrupt the earth became. Ki hishchis kol basar es darkei ala haaretz. For all flesh had corrupted its ways on earth. This is the Dar Mabel, a Dar Rishon. And the Torah is telling us that not only was it the actual Risham, the people, the evildoers, that have turned their backs and have committed such rishus, brazenness against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it was kol basar, it was all flesh in the world, in the Bria, that was filled with corruption, which includes animals, which includes insects. And the Medrash tells us on this pasuk, Ki hishchiz kol basar es darkei ala aretz, Omer v'Yochanan, melamed she'aviu behema al chaya v'chaya al behema v'akol al adam v'adam al akol. There was a tremendous mix of breeds, of genders, of animals with humans. Everyone was lustfully committing the terrible avira of Gilei Rayos. And the Medrash continues, the kulam kilkulam aseim. Even the animals amongst themselves were makalkal. They were so corrupted. Hakelev hoylech eitz al zev, hatarnagol that the dog went to the wolf and the rooster went to the peacock. We see how profound, how deeply the impurity went literally down to the core, not only to the Adam, to mankind, but it even infiltrated into the animals of the generation. And they too have succumbed to this terrible Isser of Gilei Rayos. Now the most remarkable thing about this Medrash, which needs explanation, is the Medrash uses the word hoylech. The Medrash says again, the kulam kilkulam aseim hakelev hoylech eitzel zev, that the dog goes to the wolf, etc. The question is, since when do animals have bechira? When does a kelev intentionally, consciously go to a tarnagol and do an avera? An animal is not an adam, it doesn't have a brain, it doesn't have bechira, it doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. So how could it be that the Medrash is telling us it's hoylech? The Medrash emphasizes, it highlights the fact that it goes, seemingly that it goes itself with das, with bechira, but we know that an animal doesn't have bechira. So how on earth, literally, can it be that we see this new idea, this new concept, somehow that the animal is a hoylech? He's going with das, he's going with consciousness, he's going with intention and committing adultery. The Beis Halevi offers profound insight into the pshat and how it could be that the lustfulness penetrated even the psyche of an animal. And we'll elaborate a little bit. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos teaches us Aveira Gereres Aveira, that one bad deed leads to another, and it becomes second nature. And the Gemara says that when a person repeatedly sins, it becomes keheter. It becomes as if it's permitted to him, which means that even if one knows how bad, how terrible his actions are, and how wrong and harmful the force of this new habit is, not only to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but to him, to his neshama, to his nefesh, it's impossible to fight with. The battle is too strong, because when something comes, as the Sfarim call it, tivishenis, second nature, it's like blinking an eye. There's no thought process. It's so natural that the battle doesn't even resonate. On the flip side, the Mishnah also tells us that mitzvah gereres mitzvah, that one mitzvah leads to another, which means that when we build positive energy and momentum in doing good and doing tov, then subconsciously what happens is that automatically, suddenly, things that were unattainable become the norm. It becomes natural. How? Because midah tov meruba. If it happens for the bad, it could happen for the good. And the good, this new snowball effect, the new ripple effect of tov, of good, all of a sudden becomes second nature. It's like blinking an eye, but in a good way. And the things that he thought were unconquerable, the things that he thought were unattainable, all of a sudden he planted those roots, and after time, suddenly he surpassed all those benchmarks. And slowly but surely, after time, suddenly the new norm is way beyond what he ever would have dreamt of. And now his new goals, his new aspirations are light years away of things he never thought he could possibly embark on. Again, we see that this idea of tivishenis, second nature, applies for the good as well. But the novelty, the chiddush of the Beis Halevi, is that when these new energies for the good or for the bad are implemented and introduced to the world, not only do they have a roshim, do they have an effect, do they make an imprint on the neshama of the individual, rather they have a ripple effect on the entire physical bria. And not only does that include animals, but says the Beis Halevi, that includes inanimate objects such as stones, pebbles, grass, dirt as well. This is definitely a tremendous concept. It's something we may never have heard before, but this is what the Beis Halevi says. And what comes out from here, and to answer original question of how is it that the animals made a bechira to do bad, the answer is that when the people, the Bnei Adam of the Dar HaMabel, when they let the koyach hara, when they let the koyach of the sitra acher overcome, and they let the tumah, the deepest levels of lust and taiva, desire, to overcome, to overpower, and to govern their lives, that didn't only puncture the core of their essence, the essence of a Bnei Adam, but it introduced the most profound negativity and hashchasa, destruction, not only to them, but to the entire bria, which included the animals. And therefore, although they're only animals, they don't have a brain, they don't have a neshama, but somehow, on a different level, a different sphere, Kabbalistically, says the Beis Halevi, these animals, all of a sudden now, were introduced, were given this koyach hatumah, and now they were able to be hoylech. The dog consciously went, because he was now permeating with this koyach of tumah, and he went to the rooster. And the dog consciously went with that same ruach hatumah and went to the wolf. Now we understand how the pasuk says that the world was filled with hashchasa, and the Medrash tells us that the animals actually went and committed adultery. They went and did gilui arayos. Now we understand, based on the Beis Halevi, that when this new element of tumah was introduced to the world, that didn't only destroy the people themselves, but it destroyed everything in sight. It corrupted the minds of the animals, it corrupted the grass, it corrupted the sky, it corrupted the trees. Everything became disgusting. It became lowly, sullied in tumah. And suddenly, things that had no koyach bechira, all of a sudden were able to choose bad. The bad was so overpowering, overbearing. And now, they were holchim. They were going in that way of tumah. They chose the bad. But we must remember that this works for the good as well. Midah tov meruba. We can always learn to the good. Then we're mechazik. When we grow, when we strengthen ourselves, when we fortify ourselves with mitzvahs, with kedusha, how far that goes. What a kiddushem shamayim that makes in the world. When we introduce, when we uplift ourselves, when we uplift others, and we're memalech chol haaretz kevodah, we fill the world with Hashem's glory. We glorify everything. We make brachas. We do chasadim. We learn Torah. We say tehillim. We daven. We overcome our yetzer hara. It's unfathomable how much good, how much koyach hatara, how much koyach hakedusha, new elements of holiness, of purity we bring into this world. Not only to ourselves, but to the animals, to the bria, to the entire kol ha'olam kulai. We could mamish sanctify and be mekadesh anything. And if we were living in the Dar Mabel, and to an extent we're living in the Dar Mabel of our own now, and going back to our original question, how could it be that what we do here has a ripple effect on a soldier, on a hostage, on a broken family, Rahman al-Islam? The answer is, we see from the Beis Halevi, of course it can. We're ba'achdas, we're kol yisrael arivim zelazeh, we're shalshelis, we're a chain. Chain is only as strong as the weakest link. We have to stay strong. We have to make sure that there's no weak links. We can't afford that during this time. If we're all connected, we're all united, we're all tied together, we're all B'nai Hashem, we're all B'nai Yisrael, we have to realize that with that comes a tremendous achrayas. An achrayas to daven, to do more, to learn, to give, to encourage, to uplift, because all these things have an effect. We're all connected. Like we saw, the koyach of Ra in the Dar Mabel took down the world. Everything became sullied, disgusting, immoral. But on the contrary side, when it comes to the good, when it comes to Kedusha, when it comes to holiness, just imagine how far-reaching each action, each chizik, how far-reaching that can be. When we hear those messages from our Gedolim, from the soldiers themselves, don't turn away. Say that kapitel. Do more. Give more tzedakah. Do something for someone else, a chesed. It's so important because that action doesn't stay local, but rather it shakes the entire chain. It shakes a brother or sister very far away, someone you don't know, but it will have an effect, undoubtedly. Now really we could stop here, and hopefully that was a message that we can all use, that we can all identify with now. I want to add one thing. Sometimes we feel disconnected, we feel low, we feel miyuyish, we feel inadequate, we feel, what's my tefillah going to do? Everyone else is davening, but me? Do you know how bad my Shabbos was last week? Do you know how bad my Ben Adam Mechaver was? Do you know what I was thinking? Do you know what I looked at? Hashem, you don't need me. You don't want me. We can mistakenly, erroneously think such thoughts. But I want to share one last piece of chizik from this week's parsha as well. The Zohar Kodesh says that when Noach came out from the Teva, he saw a devastated, desolate, and sorrowful world. And he began to cry out to Hashem, and he said, Hashem, you're the Avar Rachamon. You should have spared the world. You should have activated your mercy. Why did you destroy the world? Noach was crying, to which Hashem replied, Noach, you should have davened. Your ultimate task was to guide the Rishonim towards tshuva, but you forgot to daven. You didn't pray. And because you didn't daven, you didn't get them to do tshuva, and because they didn't do tshuva, the world was destroyed. So it's on you, Noach. I'm sorry. I'm empathetic. I feel your pain. I realize how hard it must be to walk out of a wooden boat after 120 days and see an empty, barren, depressed, desolate world where there's no hope. There's not even a ray of light. But it's on you, Noach. It's on you. Now the question is, why indeed? Why did Noach neglect the koyach of tefillah? Why didn't he daven to Hashem? The Kedushas Levi answers that it was because Noach did not view himself as worthy. Noach was coming from a place of righteousness, a place of tzidkis, a place of anivus, of humility. And he felt he wasn't befitting. He wasn't one to deliver the tefillahs that were required for this terrible, wicked nation. And therefore, he chose not to daven. He thought it wasn't worthy. He thought it wouldn't make a difference. If I may say, Rabbi say, we see the koyach of tefillah. We see how important, how powerful the koyach of tefillah is. If you think about it, the world was destroyed. The Mabel only came because Noach didn't daven. If Noach would have davened, it all wouldn't have happened. They would have been spared. Presumably they would have done tshuva, and Hashem would have been makabel, and they would have been spared. But instead, he thought his tefillah was inadequate, and he went with that, and he didn't daven. This week, Parshas Noach, when we're thinking, am I adequate? Am I worthy? Hashem, you know my averis. You know what I was thinking. You know what I did to the other person. You know what I said about the other lady. You know I said Lashon Hara. You know I looked at something I wasn't supposed to. You know I ate something that was questionably kosher. You know I have bad feelings towards my friend, even though I shouldn't. You know it all. You want my tefillah? We can't think like that. Now is not the time. Hashem is always open to our tefillahs. He always tilts his ears to our prayers. Shari demayis lo na'al. The gates of tears are never closed. That's always, but especially during this time, where Klal Yisroel, Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, is in desperate need of the increase of all of our tefillas, of our ma'asim tovim. We mustn't turn our head, our hearts, away from the need, away from the calling. Let us all step up to the plate. Let us all swing hard with our tefillas, with the increase in avodas Hashem. And with this chizik, please Hashem, may you redeem us very soon, protect us all, give refuah to those that need protection, to all of Klal Yisroel, and Mirz Hashem, ultimately, Geula Bekarv Mamish. I thank you all for listening. I wish each and every one of you a wonderful Shabbos. I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.